Good morning. This is Dr. Matthew Dunn, host of The Future of Email. My guest today, Karen Talavera, who I've been trying to coax on for at least a year. Karen, welcome. So wonderful to have you on the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me as a guest. Love
And
it.
you run Synchronicity Marketing, and dare I say, you're one of the known greats in the email space. Like you've done a lot of stuff in this world, right?
I have. I got into this world when it was brand new back in 1999, I think. So, you just
Relatively,
stay long enough, Matthew, and crazy things happen.
rel- some not fresh out of, but not that far out of Michigan, and I'm required by my wife to say "Go Blue" if I say
Yeah,
Michigan. So,
undefeated. I
uh,
know. We're very excited. This could be the year.
tell me a bit about synchronicity marketing. I mean, we've talked at conferences, but I don't think we've ever sat down and said, "Hey, fill me in on your clients and business and what your company does."
Yeah, thanks. I mean, our mission is to make email marketing easier and better. So Synchronicity Marketing specializes in strategy. And yeah, I'm a strategist at heart. That's my wheelhouse. Work with a lot of the full service agencies that are out there that do all of the other things that should come after strategy,
Yeah,
like the nitty gritty of email or the design piece or the
yeah,
setup or
yeah,
whatnot. But, where I come in is taking a look at someone's program and helping them understand how to get more bang for the buck,
yeah.
how to optimize performance, and really like what to do. What should the campaigns be? How do we, set up a journey? And what does it look like? And what do we say in each message?
How do
And
you get there from here, right?
how do you get there from here? And how do you continually make it better and better? And we've got so many great tools and technologies. That's what's kept me interested
Yeah,
in this channel, if we even can call it an industry, but in digital in general, it's a
yeah,
constant evolution, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Constant learning curve. And what do you mean? Need to know how to do that? Really? Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Right.
But my ideal client is going to be a mid to large size B2C brand, established business across many different verticals. I mean, we all love to work in the e-tail, retail, DTC, the fun brands that are doing a ton online and their email has a lot of personality. But I have a sweet spot for financial services because they've been, a
Really?
little slower to the party, a little more regulated over the years. It's
Yes.
been tougher for them and they're really getting there now. Travel, hospitality,
Yeah.
some B2B, and there's the occasional startup or small local business that gets in and needs what I do, but mostly it's pretty established brands. Yeah.
When you look at the stuff that you're doing now, focusing, as you said, on strategy, what is your top of mind that's really different now from say 5, 6 years ago? What's changed a bunch?
People are finally really getting on the bandwagon with automation and putting the power of automated messages and journeys that has existed in a lot of the email and marketing automation platforms, hence their name, for
Yeah,
over a
yeah,
decade.
yeah.
But it's like nobody had time to think these things through for the longest time because, and I feel your pain out there, brand side marketers. It was some CMO or CEO saying, we need more sales. So send more
Yeah,
email. Like,
yeah.
here's a new
Simply email.
promo. Here's a new deal. So it was blast, blast, blast,
Yeah.
or a lot of promotional messaging. And then we kind of got into some content marketing and messaging, which I think is a really necessary piece for most brands can benefit from that.
Hmm.
But finally, it's, hey, I can nurture my leads. I can convert, cold or I can develop customer relationships over time with email. I can message my buyers after they bought the first time, the second time. Ooh, I can do some analysis on their buying behavior
Yeah,
and
yeah.
come up with all kinds of cool campaigns that reach exactly the right person at the right time. So that's great news. Like, that is the power that has existed that's gone untapped. That's finally, getting done. But that's where
The dark
strategy,
side.
yeah, there's a dark side. That's where somebody like me loves to play and come in and say, "Oh, yeah, have you thought about this one? Or have you tested?" Right? Have you
Adjust it
tested
to
how
the
many
yeah,
touches does it take to get that second purchase? What are we going to say?
yeah.
What's cadence? But yeah, the dark side, if you over automate because you think you can just forget about having to do anything yourself ever, set and forget.
I was
You
gonna bring up that phrase. We got sold set
well,
forget, right? Like, no, don't do that.
set, but don't forget.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Set,
set, but watch and measure and pay attention and revise
yeah,
and yeah.
yeah.
The temptation with automation is always to assume and automation of almost any sort
Mm.
is to assume that it means full automation, like just let it
Hands
run.
off. It means hands
Yeah,
off,
yeah,
right?
and if
Yeah.
it's gonna go to a human being or a bunch of human beings, sooner or later, you need to pay attention and come back to it and freshen it up, revise it, change it, improve it, like, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
which my opinion, a lot of the, sort of previous generation of they sold themselves as set and forget tools, triggers, automations, journeys, like, too many of them made it opaque, like, it was relatively easy to get something in place, but, reviewing it, watching it, changing it, updating it, it's like, "Oh, you wanna do that? Yeah, I really wanna do that." Like
Yeah.
yeah, and so the vendors had to recognize that they've got a role in that, that strategic thinking about automation as well.
Right. And, set and then revisit.
Yeah,
Set and put reminders on your calendars or in your Asana or, wherever your team is using to own this. Who's the owner? Who's going
yeah,
to be the owner, to
yeah,
come back and constantly look. And that's one thing I love doing for clients is like, let's do a monthly report card,
yeah,
right? Let's
yeah,
take a look at how are these things performing?
right,
You
right.
know? What do you do next? Like, do you spend your time, money, and effort optimizing
Mhm.
or doing a new journey? Because they are time intensive to set up,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, yeah, a
And
ton of work. And
yeah, I think
and
that's why I want to forget them because it's like, oh my gosh, I just finally got through putting this together. Do I have to do another one? Or
it
how
has
many?
it
Yeah,
it has gotten a bit easier though, hasn't it, to sort of stitch together your term customer journey to go, "All right, this should happen, then this should happen, and maybe after that much time, this should happen if the right conditions are met," and so on. It's better now than it used to
it's
be.
better.
Yeah.
I've really got to tip my hat to the platforms for starting to bake this stuff in more.
Mhm,
And saying, "Hey, we've got sort of a pre-templated
mhm,
flow for you,"
mhm.
you know? I mean, and they have a ton of self-learning information. Again, how many people have time to really get into that? And is
That's
your
right.
account manager that's the thing. A lot of the vendor side providers, SaaS providers we know and love and have seen over the years have gotten out of the professional services,
Yeah,
business, you know? And good, bad, or indifferent, makes, more opportunity for the agency and consultant side.
yeah,
So I'm not complaining about that.
uh,
But, they used to have account management or customer success managers checking in and saying, "Hey, we noticed you're not doing this in the platform, and the platform can do it.
yeah, yeah.
We help you."
Um, Slightly off topic, but it'll get us back here. Um, I've fired up and used HubSpot for various functions at various companies over the years, and I've noticed that they're very dialed in at paying attention to where you are and nagging you to do more because eventually it means you're going to upgrade, subscribe, something like that, and like pretty successful platform. And there's got to be something to what they spend their time on. They're paying someone to nag me. Oh, hey, have you looked at this? Yes, I did. Thanks very much.
I I gotta give them props too, because look, they carved out a great,
Yeah,
presence in the B2B,
yeah, yeah.
first of all, B2B space, so they understand and they practice what they preach,
Yes, they
content
do.
marketing,
Yeah,
nurturing,
yeah.
drips,
Yeah, oh,
you
yeah.
know? Yeah, they do it themselves, but that's the platform
Yep.
for B marketers to
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, Karen, I got a wonky net connection. You
but,
there you are.
it's a great one.
Sorry, my net connection. hiccup, so, hopefully it doesn't freeze
Hey, man. Wow.
recording.
Oh, great. I think we froze up for a tiny bit. There, you're back. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, it's a miracle. It's a
Awesome.
miracle it all works. Well, something else you
I know.
alluded to there that I think is one of the realities of for folks that work in any piece of the marketing space, email particularly, man, you better sign up to keep learning new stuff because there's
Mhm.
no end to that stack of responsibilities. Every platform you adopt has documentation this deep. And
Yep.
you must end up working with a bunch of, I mean, you're more strategy, but you've got to end up with your hands on a lot of different pieces of the puzzle.
Well, it's tapered off in the last 5 or 6 years, but for a huge part of my journey at email, I was an educator
Yeah,
and have done a ton of, live training, virtual in classroom, online,
yeah,
create content. It's all out there. Look, I mean, now, 20, 25 years after email started, that exists in abundance. So there's
yeah,
plenty of places to go. But you're right. We need to constantly refresh mindset and skill set. And the skill set piece is a little easier, to get your head around because it's a lot of time in a platform, hands on, using the training resources of the provider that you're with. The
yeah,
mindset piece can be a little bit trickier because what worked 5, 10, well, let's just take it down, 3 years
yeah,
pre pandemic, right?
yeah,
5 years, 10 years ago, constantly changes because behavioral economics changes. That's another area I'm passionate about. How do we make decisions, right? How do, as consumers, we manage the constant flow of impressions hitting us in all these different ways and places and spaces and ever growing devices?
yeah,
It changes the way we think generationally. So there's been a lot of studies of younger generations doing things differently
yeah.
than their previous counterparts. Yeah.
Yeah, and new things sneak up, and we're all, we've got 24, roughly 24 hours in a day, right? And only so many minutes of energy and attention, and every new platform is trying to grab a piece of that. We wouldn't have been talking about TikTok 5 years ago, and we should figure out where that fits in the universe now if we're working with a company on their marketing, broadly speaking. And I speak
Well,
as someone who's never fired up TikTok.
and I listen, I mean, I don't know if it's a big secret or anything. I'm not a huge TikTok fan. I think it's
Yeah,
got its place. It's entertainment. I don't have a lot of time for it personally,
yeah, yeah, same.
but it illustrates an incredibly important point. And the way their algorithm works, gets people really hooked is that if we have not been in a state of digital ADD before, we are absolutely
We're
there
absolutely
now.
not. Right, right, and
And
think
yeah,
about TikTok laterally for a second, right? In a
sure.
funny way, it's a customer journey automation, customer set of 1, right? Oh, he watches these, feed him more of these, try some
Yeah.
of those. Oh, he watches those. Okay, now mix these and those, and then like an endless bowl of potato chips, half a day would have gone by and you've done nothing but swipe like a monkey with a tree full of bananas. It's a little scary.
Like Pavlov's dogs. Yeah.
Yeah, seriously, woof woof, ding ding. Oh man, yeah, it's deadly, and it's easy to poke fun at and kind of rail about, but it's also realistically part of the cycle of the day, as is checking your inbox, part of the cycle of the day for a lot of people.
Well, and I know I've seen it myself. What happens is there's more things to check. And then let's take those of us like, that are working in this space. We've got
Right.
Slack going off left and right, Slack groups. You might be on Reddit, you might be on
Yeah,
God, Substack, that
yeah,
it's impossible. It's almost impossible to find some hub for everything to come into.
yeah,
So the time that email gets,
yeah,
I think might be shrinking, but the way people process it, I'll just say like kind of mentally get through it.
yeah,
I think it's shifting. I know I've done a variety of crazy things just to like absorb the sheer amount that I get.
yeah,
The way they sort, the way they filter, the
yeah,
way they move things, between tabs,
yeah,
that's an option. Um, what's going to stand out? Let's think about like how the consumer is going to resonate or connect with what you're sending.
yeah,
They are looking at subject line, pre-header, first couple words that show up in a preview in like sub-second response time and the brand name. And if they love you
In the brand name. Yeah.
and and want you, then you better be like, really visible and just get to the point. What are we seeing now with holiday? We should probably talk about
Yeah.
holiday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious your reaction to this, and it's this is gonna be like true confession time for someone in the email space. Well, like people in almost any profession, particularly email marketing, I end up on a ton of lists, subscriptions, etc. I don't even remember where they come from, right? And some of them I want, and some of them are too hard to unsubscribe. So increasingly, my morning routine, it I know the keystrokes like by heart in my client of choice is like view inbox unread, and then I'll select all for an entire screen full of messages and unclick based on who and nuke the rest of them. It's like subject line is a second filter. Who the heck is this from? Is a
Uh-huh.
primary filter. I don't even get to the subject line on probably 50% of the messages that come to my inbox because it's like, yeah, sorry, too much email. Boom, most of it's gone. And the brands and people that have been consistent enough to go, oh yeah, I do want to read what they said, will
Yeah.
survive that cleanse in the morning. And I'm not inbox zero by any stretch. You think people are
I
going to get there?
I tried for inbox zero.
Wow.
Right. And I've got, I don't know, like 6 or 7 inboxes, but they're not all overflowing. I've got a couple consumer,
Yeah. Yeah.
inboxes.
Yeah.
It's so funny you mention your process because in my consumer inboxes where I am intentionally subscribing to consumer email from brands that I may not even buy from, but in the
Yeah.
course of being
You want to see what they're
business, I
doing.
want to see what they're sending or and then I mean I get into like rules and folders where I can archive all of that and come back to, oh, I need an example for what blah blah blah, or I want to
Yeah.
see what
Yeah.
so and so sent for Mother's Day.
Right.
It's still
Right.
gonna be there. So I'm gonna admit most of those are Gmail accounts because,
Sure.
yeah, you can keep the
Oh, good.
trash or
Free
most
storage.
something with the trash.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll go in and sort alphabetically by sender name, by from name,
Mm-hmm.
and do the kind of mass delete, knowing that I can always get to that later because it's gonna be archived. I could search, I could find it. But hey, if it's a brand like right now around holiday
Yeah.
that I literally might want to buy from,
Right.
I'll undelete just like you. It's like, wait, what am I actually going to look at in this particular session while I'm in my inbox?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I gotta process it or whatever, deal with it now or later. Now, if it's a notice from my bank or I don't know, an order confirmation I want to save, yeah,
Right.
I'm gonna deal with it.
Yeah. You're going to deal with
Yeah.
it. Right. And
Yeah.
that dance of not losing the stuff that's actually, what's the Eisenhower quadrant, urgent and important versus
Oh
urgent,
yeah.
et cetera. It's like, oi, it never stops. It just never stops.
It does. It is, and we used to say this about social media when it was new back in the day. Um, and still true today. And I think it's even more true of the inbox than it used to be true of the inbox. It's just an ever flowing river.
Mm,
And I think that's a great mindset
yeah. Yeah.
um point for brand marketers to think about. If you are not in the river, constantly visible to where your customer on the bank is standing, if you're not constantly floating by, giving them a
Yeah.
chance to jump on board,
Yeah.
you know, you're missing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're, literally missing the your boat is missing.
Yeah. Which goes
Um,
to what you said earlier
and
about cadence,
yeah,
doesn't it? Right? Like, are you at least regular enough for they go, oh, I know who that is. I've read something else from them.
yeah.
Well, actually, I might pay attention to this one.
Are you staying top of mind? Right.
Yeah.
So when
Yes.
they're ready to buy or do the next step in whatever your conversion process is or consideration process, you're there because these days your absence will not be noticed.
Right.
It might have been at one point, but your absence will be like completely forgotten. So
Yeah.
that's the argument for a lot of social media is I have to be omnipresent. I have to constantly be visible and get engaging people. I would say, yeah, you got to be visible in the inbox too,
Yeah.
because they're
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, that, makes a ton of sense, and it means that a brand signing up for an email program needs to recognize they're signing up for a constant thing, not an occasional thing.
Yep. Yeah.
Oof.
I mean, we may not see it too much because like I mentioned earlier, I don't work with a ton of really small businesses, the Main Street USA corner
Mhm,
store kind of thing.
mhm.
But I'm still amazed by how many sites I'll come across in a decent mid-sized business that are not doing everything they can to
Yeah.
monetize their traffic into an email list. They're not
Yes.
capturing new subscribers
Yeah, absolutely.
and they're missing a welcome. And it's such low-hanging fruit now
It's so
that
easy.
it, but it's so important. It pays
Yes.
off
Yes,
so
yes.
huge,
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
know?
The last guest on The Future of Email, in fact, that episode will go up hopefully soon, was a gent who founded a golf club manufacturer and built it and eventually sold it, um, mostly on the strength of how much and how smartly they use their email list, which I found really, really interesting to talk with him about. Like, he
Mhm.
recognized that not only was that, you know, capture that way of contacting people vital, but he was diligent about using it as a two-way medium. He said, every time I think we should bring out this club versus that club, I'd ask the list.
Oh,
And
yeah.
a lot of times I was wrong. But by listening to the customers and asking them, instead of
Mhm.
making $1 million bet on something that wasn't gonna sell, he made $1 million bet manufacturing the one much more likely to sell, and, you kinda go, "Duh, of course," but a lot of people don't do that "duh, of course" thing.
Well, here's another mindset shift, and I used to cringe. I still cringe at the word blast, and we talked for years in email about batch and blast
Yeah.
and, kind of one size fits all messaging and trying to move people away from that.
Mhm.
And I think we've been pretty successful. Again, more automations, more journeys, more thinking through point in
Yeah.
time messaging. But yeah, what about making that shift to how do I make it more two way? Am
Yeah.
I asking my customers more than just an automated post purchase trust pilot
Yeah.
review thing?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, real
Yeah.
actually ask me something because surprisingly, in the mantra of provide something of value, asking my opinion reads as something of value, legitimately is something of value. Oh, like you actually care about my vote on, what I'm likely to put in my golf bag. Okay, this one, not that one, right? Boy, that's a
Yeah,
brand that's going up in the rankings in my head automatically.
absolutely. And I am just recently designed a couple of win back and reactivation campaigns.
Yeah,
So another great automated journey for that point in the life cycle where a customer might be really getting inactive. You're seeing some attrition. You're not sure if well, a couple things could be happening. They're just not buying, they're not transacting, or they're no longer interested in the channel. And you want to reactivate interest in both.
yeah.
And a great touch in that process is a survey. You know,
Oh, right.
it's
Yeah, yeah,
tell us more. Like, what do you want? What do you want to hear about? What are you not getting? Could be just two questions, three
yeah.
questions, you know? Great source of info. Yeah, and on the front
Great
end
source
as
of
well.
info.
How about in the welcome and onboarding,
Well, I
you
like
know?
that. Yeah, I like that a lot, actually.
Yeah, I think we forget some of those touches. They're still in a marketing stream or marketing campaign, but can be research oriented.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah,
and not so much sell, 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 which is
yes.
refreshing when you don't get sell, sell, sell. This was
Oh,
a relief. Um, uh-oh, video froze again. I'm gonna give it a second.
yeah, I always say, it's hard for B2C brands, e-com brands, right?
Yeah,
But I always say, don't be the friend who only calls when you need something. If you
yeah,
and
yeah,
we know you constantly need money to come in the door. We know emails, huge contributor to that. When I've looked at, a lot of like GA dashboards, it's often number two in revenue generation
yeah.
next to paid and sometimes organic search. So of
Makes sense.
course, the temptation to just constantly send buy messages,
Yeah, yeah.
promos and deals is really tempting, or it's really tempting, but break it up. What can you
Cricket.
break it up with? You could break it up with content. You could break it up with, yeah, survey. I asked
Surveys,
about
yes.
myself.
Yeah, something, or, send me something
Fun.
completely related that you think's of value.
Yeah, games, trivia,
Yeah,
gamify some stuff.
yeah,
Yeah, all of the above.
all the
So,
above. It's a bit of a segue, but I'm curious your take on how text messaging is starting to fit into companies' cadences and communications, because here's my segue takeoff. I've got a couple brands that I bothered to say yes to text messaging, but
uh
what they do is sell, 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 and what they've really done is train me to wait for the sale, right?
yeah,
It's like, okay, it's gonna go on sale sooner or later because you only have so many things, and I know I'm gonna get the every other day, this is on sale, so if I need that, I'll wait a month, and sooner or later, you'll sell it for less, and I'll get it then. Um, is how does text fit, and how are you seeing it fit, and how do you tell clients to make it fit?
yeah, that's a great question. Supplement and complement would be my advice about SMS plus email.
Mhm.
Don't just completely like, so it's a great follow-up.
Mhm.
I think there are things you can do, and this has always been the case with email, where you can do channel exclusives, whatever that might be,
Yeah.
access, discounts, it could be early bird stuff. You could do that with SMS,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
But do it differently for each because
Yeah.
there's gotta be some unique value prop for somebody to start getting marketing texts. And I know I've done it. I've signed up for SMS from a couple of brands. I siphon it off to my non-primary phone number,
Yes.
whatever. I've got my little containers and buckets for dealing with all of this. But
Yep.
um, I like, I like watching what happens as a study
Yeah.
and how people are using it. And so a lot of times it's tight if it's promos and for selling purposes, tight deadlines,
Yeah.
category
Yeah.
exclusives,
Yeah.
you know, things they're not promoting on the website and they're not going to push through email. And that's the value add of getting
Yeah.
the text. But I
Yeah.
think we got to be careful because it's more expensive to send
Much
those
more
texts.
expensive. Yeah, it's much more expensive, and
Yeah.
I think it can backfire more quickly because it's such a high priority. Yeah, high priority interrupt. Sorry, I'm dating myself by saying that, but right, it's like
Yeah.
ding,
It's interruptive.
right. I'm gonna look, right,
Yeah.
and if you nag me every day with stupid stuff, boy, you're like you're gonna get ejected.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've done it. Yeah, I've already ejected and unsubscribed from a couple of the brands I've subscribed to just because the volume is too much. It's not the expression.
yeah,
It's it's not relevant enough.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
not urgent enough, and what they're selling, I don't need enough that I'm going to be in there all the time.
yeah,
But I'm glad that you brought up, that we condition people. This has been going on in emails since like the beginning days of cart abandon and browse abandon. You just wait for the discount. We
yeah,
condition people just like, oh, well, I'll just stick it in my cart.
yeah, yeah,
Wait
yeah,
a couple of days, I'll get 30% off or free shipping or whatever. And then brands finally got wise to that and said, well, all right, now we're going to change up our cart abandon strategy or browse abandon.
yeah,
And some of them got really smart and said, yeah, we're going to clear your cart. Like we're not going to let you just keep
yeah.
this as your personal wish list and pray that you know, send you a deal and
Yeah,
then you buy.
yeah,
Um, so that same thing is going to play out with SMS. If brands start seeing that people are only buying, and some brands have this, and it's a real problem.
yeah,
All they have are discount shoppers.
yeah,
That's it.
yeah, yeah,
You
no,
know.
and I suspect we're probably thinking of some of the same companies, like, "Come on, don't you have a better story than this? Because I actually do buy stuff
Yeah.
from you regularly, but" yeah, mm,
Again, back to thinking strategically,
yeah,
just about your promotional strategy across the board.
yeah,
It doesn't have to be, site wide 20% off sale every month.
right, and
It
there may
should
be more
be segment specific. It should be category specific. It should be seasonally specific.
seasonally specific. I have to say, and I'm very curious your opinion about this, I'm increasingly sanguine about whether or not the first party personalization that's such a common paradigm is actually particularly effective. Most companies I talk to don't have enough data to know much about their customer base because they're looking at it purely through the lens of their interactions, email, website, and purchase, which by no means tells them about me. What do you
Mm.
think?
Time for, boy, if there's ever a heyday for data scientists and data analytics,
Yeah.
it should be this decade because that
That's true. That's
whether you
true.
collect some of the demographic, psychographic information about a person,
Mhm.
first party, or you can get it from third party
Aggregated. Yeah.
sources.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Get it.
Yeah.
Get it. And do some overlays, send your file out,
Yeah.
and get it back with all of that, some of the basic demos, but also some of the persona
Yeah.
that's available out there to learn.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
this person on the forefront of like they're a new tech adopter, or are they an
Right.
early adopter? Are they a late
Right.
adopter? Are
Right.
they a discount buyer? Are they a luxury buyer?
Uh,
I mean, yeah,
one
where do
one
they
of the
sit in society?
yeah, one of the reasons Facebook has been, let's call it, a successful competitor for marketing spend to email. Uh,
Yeah.
like, as a closed ecosystem, they're generating that kind of insight all the time and monetizing it very, very, very adroitly. Pay over and over, try to get in front of my eyeballs, and I don't go on Facebook, so I'll leave that aside for a second. It's like,
Right.
but we're competing with that level of personalization with what we're trying to do in the inbox. And if we're slowly looking through the Venetian blind of what we happen to sell, that's a pretty scanty view of the customer, my humble opinion.
I agree. Yeah, you can make inferences, but you might not be able to draw conclusions and they might not be accurate.
And they might not be accurate. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, some businesses, again, B2C ecom, right? You got a good like if you are a go-to place for gift buyers,
Yeah.
and some categories more than others are going to fall into that.
Yeah.
Then yeah, you could identify, people that only buy at holiday.
Oh,
They only buy as a gift rather
right.
than themselves.
Right. Right.
Purchase data is going to be pretty accurate there because you can look at timing and you can look at, the
Yeah.
shipping costs and
Yeah.
all of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, I mean, you could see somebody buying jeans over and over when you also sell jackets and shoes,
Right.
or subject near and dear to my heart, they're
Yeah.
buying ski apparel.
Right. I was going to ask
Yeah.
you.
I know. What about a helmet? What about the skis? What about poles? What about,
Hey,
a backpack?
we'll tie this into email or marketing somehow. But I just read an
Uh-huh.
article about. I actually worked in the ski industry for about 4 years, oddly enough. So I understand at least a little bit about it. But I saw an article the other day that said Vail has announced I think it's, yeah, VRI. They own like half the resorts in America now, right?
Oh, uh-huh.
They've announced a pretty disruptive approach to equipment rental.
Oh, yes.
They're going basically Uber for skis, boots, and skis, boots, boards, and binding. And they'll deliver it wherever you want them to meet you on the day that you want to ski. And I'm thinking, okay, that's an app and text messaging and all sorts of other stuff neatly wrapped
Mhm.
into taking the headache out of stumping through the parking lot with the big boards over your shoulder in ski boots. Like, wow, this may really take off. What do you think?
Well, I'm going to be careful what I say because as both a marketer and a part-time Vail Resorts employee,
Yes.
yes, Matt and I were chatting ahead of time that I'm a recent full-time resident of Colorado and coming up on, I know, so excited. I live up by Keystone and Breckenridge Resorts, for anyone familiar.
Nice.
So I'm coming up on my second year of being a part-time ski instructor, which is, if you love to ski or ride, snowboard, greatest side hustle ever because the
Yeah.
minimum gig is only 17 days for the whole season. So you could
Yeah.
easily fit this into weekends.
Yeah.
And there's a ton of systems stuff that Vail has going on. They are definitely going through a digital transformation process, both from the guest side and the employee side.
Right.
Uh, I just got an email like, "Oh, now we have a new time card system, and we're going to have a new scheduling system." And so I look at this through the MarTech lens. I put my MarTech
Good.
glasses
I'll
on,
bet.
and I'm like,
Yeah.
"What in the holy hell is going on behind this?" It looks painful to me
Yeah.
outside, but yes, at the end of last season, they announced our pass is going to be now available on a mobile app.
Sweet.
First time ever, you could just scan your phone. Don't have to have a plastic hard card pass
Yes.
and equipment rental.
Yes.
And a lot of us instructors sort of rolled our eyes and said, "Oh boy, this is going to be really interesting." Because, what happens when you have first time or newer beginner skiers possibly renting equipment for the first time? They don't know how the boot's going to feel. They don't know what length of snowboard or skis or anything else to
Yep.
get.
Yep.
For the experienced guest, I think yes, it could be awesome, right? Have it right delivered to your door. You know what you need, you know what you want.
Yeah.
How it's going to play out across the spectrum of this customer base,
Yeah.
I'm holding my breath. I'm not
Yeah.
exhaling yet. Yeah.
But think of it in the
Uh-huh.
context of our, conversation about marketing, knowing the customer journey. It
Yeah.
won't work overnight. There'll be all sorts of teething pains, but
Yeah.
there's a good argument to be made that eventually VRI is gonna know a ridiculous amount about the customer, like,
They already
or to
should.
do.
They already do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're going to learn even more. So you're right. There's going to be growing pains. There's going to be kinks to work out. You
Yes.
know,
Yeah.
but they're trying to move in that direction.
Economically
Uh,
compelling, right?
and honestly, boy, okay, who knows is going to see this? I'd love to have them as a client. Because those
Wouldn't that be fun, right? It's a
yeah,
challenging industry, to be sure.
just the messaging, when I look at and I know I'm not seeing it all because of course, I've been a long time Vail Resorts client. I mean, I was my current client now as a ski instructor. I was the student. I was the guest. As a babe, once a week, a year, twice a week would be a
Yeah.
bonus
Yeah.
vacation skier. All I
From
got
Florida,
was
right?
those, yeah, 5 or 6 days of
Yeah.
like, oh my God, I got to be on the hill every day and I'm in
Yeah.
lessons every day and that kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm signed up for email from I don't know how many of their different resorts, but so a lot of it's pushing lodging reservations and
Yeah. Yeah.
lift tickets and all that. But there's so much that they can do that I don't think they're doing as much as
Agreed.
they could
Agreed.
in the education side and the
Yes.
helpful. Like, hey, you just signed up, you just bought your first lift ticket ever.
Yeah.
Here's how to make your day. Here's how we're going to make your day easier. Here are some shortcuts. You just signed up your kids for lessons for the first time ever. 5-step plan to make sure they get the most out of their day.
Yep.
What
So
number one would be please make sure they eat breakfast.
yes.
This child.
Right?
I'll get
Because
into that, but
the
there's
customer
always
journey
more
can be pain.
opportunity.
Oh, huge
Yeah.
opportunity and huge opportunity to get it right, you know,
Yeah. And
because
make the guest experience better
yeah,
because
it
listen, any skier knows, or anyone who's even tried and has failed on it
yeah,
knows how difficult it is to learn. It's a heavy lift when you're a newcomer.
yeah.
Just like walking from the parking lot to the
It
to the base with your
it's it
skis, you're
it
exhausted by
yeah,
the
you
time.
yes, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
We'll digress into skiing all day, but
I
we
know.
could, but no, it's a great microcosm of how could you do it differently and better, and arguably, it
Mhm.
would actually have a positive business outcome because it's hard to get people back. It's hard to get people to go beyond that first, usually crap experience to become habitual, which is what you're, long run. That's probably what you're after. 3% of the American population skis or boards. Of that 3%, a third will do it in a given year. We're talking about literally 1% of the market that you're trying to get as your customers. You really want them to have a good time. Uh,
And you really want them to come back, but repeat business is the name of the game for everybody, whether you are, cosmetics and personal care, apparel,
yeah, whatever.
HelloFresh, meal delivery,
Sure, sure.
consumables.
Yeah, no,
It's always, you've got to keep that share of wallet,
yeah,
share of mind.
yeah,
But what great opportunities, to tell customers how to use your products better, how to anticipate what else what their needs might be, anticipate their needs, but also how to help them consider what else might complement their purchase,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
And
Or buying shoes for kids. Kids are going to grow. How do you think ahead? How do you get them to think ahead
yeah,
and make the repeat experience easier for them and ensure that they have it, that they come back?
I'm thinking of that. I'm thinking my friend with the who ran the golf company. It's like companies of a certain size kind of need a court jester to keep the customer hat on and say, no, 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 this is what it's actually like to do business with
Uh-huh.
you. This is why I bought it or subscribed or whatever. This is what I did with this is what this is what I need you to do differently to make it better. Cause it's pretty easy to get like the ski companies, right? It's easy to get in the myopia of everyone knows how to get to the lift in their boots. No, they don't, right? The
Well,
court jester would say, oh God, that was awful, right? Make that better, please.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, I mean, I don't know. This is the future of email, right? And email's been around for, I mean, we can start the clock
Oh,
lots of
wow.
different places, easily a
Yeah.
quarter century now,
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
not going away, still
No.
the original killer app.
And
Um,
the one that people will reach for when they're when they need to express themselves happy, unhappy, whatever else, like, one of the things I find myself chewing on more and more is, "Wait a minute, this is a two-way channel." So much of the marketing stuff I get is basically, "We don't wanna hear from you," which I'm
right.
thinking is kinda dumb. Like, yeah, you do. You
Yeah.
really do.
So give them a way to do it.
Yeah, so give them a way
Yeah.
to do it, right? Like you said, surveys, ask them questions, whatever else, yeah. Not gonna go away anytime soon. Well, you're liking Colorado, I take it.
I love Colorado. Yeah.
Excellent. Ex
Awesome decision. Best playground ever.
Yeah, beautiful state, and if people haven't been there to realize how, amazing it is in the summer, because it's easy to get the cliche, sort of ski cliche in your head, but Colorado in the summer is pretty darn special place.
Well, when I first came out in 2020, yeah, despite the pandemic, I spent a summer and I heard from a lot of people come for the winter and stay for the summer. The summer is kind of what
Yeah,
clinches it.
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, I'll just say, I mean, Denver's a growing tech hub.
yeah, yeah.
Lots of us are virtual nationwide,
Mhm.
professionals in the mountain towns. I work nationwide. We see each other at conferences,
Right.
around the
Yeah,
circuit and so forth. So,
yeah.
yeah, it's pretty great if you can,
Figure
have
out
a
how to ma
life that lets you live where you want.
Yeah,
Mm.
figure out how to make all of that, work, so, kudos to you for doing it. Well, Karen, let's wrap up. I didn't get to type your whole morning, even though I'm sure we could probably
Thank
talk about this stuff all day, but it's really been a delight. I know it would.
you. Thank you so much for asking me, and likewise.
Where does someone hunt you down if they say, "Oh, wow, we need her help with strategy"?
Synchronicitymarketing.com.
There you go. Synchronicity Marketing. Karen Talavera. Karen, thanks a lot. We are out.